I am Sharon Giro's Business Time on Times Television. It is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines. In the program today, Reserve Bank of Malawi emphasized that the country needs to grow its digital financial services. And Mera shuts down 32 filling stations. We have these and other stories. Do stay with us. Hello and welcome. The Reserve Bank of Malawi has emphasized that the country needs to grow its digital financial services for national development. Central Bank Governor Dalitso Kabambe said this on Thursday in Mangochi during a digital financial services workshop. The conference has brought together financial service experts who are reviewing Malawi's performance in digital financial transactions. Steve Jauluga reports from Mangochi.
Financial experts from different sectors of the economy are meeting in this hall where they are discussing issues to do with digital financial services and how as a country we are doing in implementing issues to do with digital financing as opposed to manual financial systems that as a country we have been using prior to 2002. According to the Reserve Bank Governor, Dalitso Kabambe, the country is doing good. And if we are to implement digital financial services, then institutions like the Reserve Bank of Malawi will be saving a lot because currently they use about 12 to 13 billion kwacha to replace banknotes that have been damaged.
We want to review the progress that we have made so far to say what have we done in terms of the payment infrastructure in the country, in terms of the volume and the value of transactions that are going through digital financial services and how we can improve going forward. So we want to review, and I think what I was saying that we have made a lot of progress. We now have what is called MITAS. MITAS is a system, it's a framework that we have developed on which all transactions in the country in terms of digital are going through. But also we have done what is called the national switch, which is linking up commercial banks, government, RBM, and all institutions in the country, including all point-of-sale devices, or ATM machines, so that you can transact with any bank, you can transact with the Airtel or Mpamba. So we have connected pretty everything else that one can easily transact, and that's the importance that we are now meeting to look at what are the other gaps and what do we do going forward.
One of the challenges that digital financial services face and customers staying digitally is that there is a problem with our networks. But what is the Reserve Bank of Malawi doing about it to make sure that digital financial services are more efficient?
Up various commercial banks and various point-of-sale devices and the transaction points, that has helped to reduce these challenges. But going forward, power outages has also been an issue, but I think recently we have seen improvement in power supply. We hope that going forward that those improvements will continue, and that should improve further. But also I think our operators have improved tremendously their systems to ensure that they can run more efficiently and effectively. Any gaps remaining are things which we'll continue to discuss.
And a lot of consumers have been complaining that they are charged a lot when they are transacting using digital financial services. One of the people who has confirmed this is the consumer rights activist John Capito, who says the Reserve Bank of Malawi should do something or regulate operators in this sector to make sure that charges are at least low for a lot of people to start using digital financial services.
Yeah, one common fear and one common challenge, rather apart from the fear, it is that the current scenario that we have in the country is that connectivity is a big challenge. When you have digital financial tools in your pocket, you must be aware that wherever you go, there will be connectivity, there will be electricity. Because sometimes you go to a place, you find that there is no electricity and the network is down. And I think you can imagine that you have traveled all the way, maybe from Tiolo and you'll be either from Palombe, just to go and do your shopping using these financial services, and you discover that your staff, you couldn't transact at all because there was no connectivity. And that is what I think the governor was talking about, that this is an area that requires improvement. But again, to add meat to this is the costs, the charges that are associated with these digital financial platforms. They are not unique, and you find that somebody wakes up in the morning and charges figures again that you would say, but I would have rather kept that money. So we have also been lobbying with the governor through Reserve Bank of Malawi to make sure that they also come up with the regulated fees and commissions that would encourage consumers to demand the digital financial services.
Responding to such complaints, Reserve Bank Governor Kabambe says the problem now is that we're just starting with these digital financial services and that we have few players in the industry. He is hoping that in as far as a lot of people are coming in this industry and companies are coming in to operate digitally in financial services, there's a likelihood that charges will be reduced. From now, it seems Malawi is at least ready to migrate from manual financial services to digital financial services. But it is yet to be seen how long it will take for the country to be recognized as a cashless economy.
The Malawi Energy Regulatory Authority, Mera, on Wednesday disclosed it had shut down about 32 filling stations for non-compliance with the rules and regulations. Mera Chief Executive Officer Collins Magalasi said this on the sidelines of a sensitization workshop with oil marketing companies and retailers on liquid fuels and gas licensing conditions and operating compliance requirements.
Mera Chief Executive Officer Collins Magalasi says Mera identified some oil companies providing fuel but could not meet the set standards. Magalasi says with the meeting, the regulator expects change.
We called for this meeting of all retail service stations in order for us to share with them the standards for construction and operation of filling stations. The reason being, as you may know, the past year we have been conducting inspections on the facilities that are selling liquid fuels and gas in the country, and we found quite a number of areas that needed improvement. You may wish to know that just the past 1 month we have had to close about 32 filling stations simply because they are not following the standards. So we called for this meeting in order to provide like a refresher to all the operators of filling stations, to remind them what the law and the regulations are requiring them to do, and to get fresh commitment on what they are supposed to do in order to provide for safe and the right liquid fuels and gas on the market. Among the things that we look at, not only did we look at the infrastructure, but we also looked at the qualities of the fuel that they do sell. And we were able to identify that there are some oil marketing companies that are providing fuel that is not meeting their standards. Some of them, when you look at the product, you take, let's say, diesel, you look at it, the color looks right, or the density looks right, but when you get into the laboratory, we found that there were shortfalls. So those that were not meeting the standards we have highlighted, and we are making sure that they do not repeat. So yes, we have realized that some service stations were selling fuel that is not meeting the standards. Well, there are two types of standards here. There are standards on the filling stations themselves, and then there are standards on the quality, okay, the type of the fuel that they are supposed to sell. On the fuel, it is a requirement that diesel must be blended. So we have got the petrol, which has to be 80%, and then 20% of it is supposed to be fuel ethanol. And we found that many oil marketing companies selling fuel which is not blended with the fuel ethanol. And we have reminded them that it is a requirement that all fuel that we have in the country must have 20% of it blended with fuel ethanol. And then the other requirements that we are having on the infrastructure itself. Most of the filling stations, when you go there, particularly those that were built long before we developed the new construction guidelines, are not serving the interests of the environment.
One of Energem franchise dealers, Spencer Dzinyemba, says some dealers were indeed not complying with the laws and regulations. The purpose of the sensitization meeting was to provide an opportunity to the stakeholders to appreciate the regulators' expectations. It also aimed at providing a platform to share outcomes of inspections conducted and, together with the industry, seek ways for continuous improvement and compliance to standards.
Remember, this is Business Time on Times Television with me, Sharon Jirwa. It is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories. A South Africa-based international trade expert, Trudy Hertzingberg, has lauded initiatives being undertaken in Malawi before the country ratifies the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, to be crucial for the benefit of the economy. 2 weeks ago, the government engaged private sector players to discuss the way forward on the country ratifying the pact.
I think very important to keep in mind that ratification of the agreement will mean that Malawi is bound by the terms of the agreement. So it must be comfortable, its constituencies in government, the private sector, consumer organizations, the citizens of Malawi must be comfortable with the terms and conditions that they are signing up to. So this is very important in terms of getting buy-in and support for the implementation process. Because if we don't have that buy-in, then we may find a situation where the agreement is ratified, but it is not effectively implemented. So ratification is really an important process. It involves also Parliament, that has to give approval, and then Malawi will deposit its instrument of ratification, a letter which indicates that it will now be bound by the agreement that it has negotiated. But very important at this stage, of course, is that the tariff negotiations are still in their early stages. Countries like Malawi are preparing tariff offers, which they will submit to all the other member states, and then there will be some negotiations. And once the tariff offers are concluded, then we will start implementing, and hopefully we will be able to start trading under the AfCFTA on the 1st of July next year. That is the ambition that member states have outlined. That's very true. That is a concern, and it's a concern very often for small and medium-sized firms, many of which we would find across sectors, agriculture and also industry in Malawi. So this is a very definite concern where imported products may be more competitively produced. They may be produced in countries that have economies of scale, bigger industries, more developed industries. But this is an opportunity where, when we are taking a look at the tariff offers we made, to look also at what other policies government needs to be introducing to support the development of domestic industry, because trade liberalization will mean that more imports come into the country. And so there are risks and adjustment costs associated with that. But there is a lot that can be done through industrial policy, through making services more efficient, making government processes like company registration easier and cheaper and more efficient. That's really, really important, because with that, we're improving the competitiveness of domestic industry. I think the important issue is that any liberalization with any trading partner will bring adjustment costs. And I think this is something which government needs to be looking into very carefully. There is, for example, a new facility made available by the African Export-Import Bank, an adjustment facility, a total of $1 billion which will be made available to countries as loans to assist with adjustment. So it's a good idea for Malawi to look at that right now and see what kind of adjustment support local businesses would need when the markets are open to imports from other African countries. I think one of the important contributions here is that Malawi will be negotiating with partners that it does not have preferential trade agreements with, for example, in West Africa. And Malawi's agricultural products, for example, may well find very, very good opportunities in those markets. So it could be opening up new market opportunities for Malawian agriculture and also for industry. Malawi is also an important producer of sugar, for example, and this could well be a product which could be exported beyond East and Southern Africa, which is really the current market for Malawi's exports. So opening new opportunities, reducing the costs of doing business through the implementation provisions of the AFCFTA that will be implemented, making regulations easier to deal with, customs and border management can be improved. So there are a lot of practical trade facilitation benefits that will also potentially come from this agreement.
As we proceed with the program, let's now have a look at how the Malawi kwacha is faring against major trading currencies on the foreign exchange market. Now, Ulendo Airlink, a subsidiary of Ulendo Malawi Group, has said it is determined to give customers the best and enjoyable flight services, having added the Blantyre-Lilongwe route in its domestic network. The airliner on Tuesday gave members of the media and travel agents a test flight from Blantyre to Lilongwe. And Ulendo Airlink sales consultant Mwawi Gondwe Chirwa said the business is satisfied with market response. Sam Banda was part of the team on board and now reports.
The country's premier tour operator and travel service provider, which started operating in 1998, on Tuesday gave members of the media and travel agents a test flight from Blantyre to Lilongwe and back. Speaking in an interview, Ulendo Airlink sales consultant Mwawi Gondwe Chirwa said they were satisfied with the response they have received, having introduced the Blantyre to Lilongwe route.
We've in the past been flying to the northern part of Malawi, and we saw there's a need for Blantyre Lilongwe, and we had more people asking for it. That's why we decided to start the Blantyre Lilongwe route. Now we'll be flying to Blantyre 9 times a week. And then from next month, probably we'll do 14 flights a week. We are very affordable. We've looked at other flights, what other people are charging. We are not in competition. Our rates will be fair to both the Malawians as well as non-Malawian residents. We are having a flight from the rates starting from 61,000 kwacha, subject to availability, so we are fair.
She described the flight as affordable, adding that they looked at other flights. Lusayo Marwanda, who works for Travel Connections and has been in the industry for 15 years, hailed Ulendo Airlink for starting the flight.
Well, the experience is good. It's only the first day from Blantyre to Lilongwe, but I can say it's good. I like the leather seats in the aircraft. The other thing I noted, the pilots were cool. We had a very good flight. Of course, it was just minor turbulence, I think, because of the heat, but it was all good. From the flight itself, I think the staff are cool. Looking from how they approached us to be on the flight and the service itself. I think with a few questions we had, the direction they gave us, it's all good. Yes, it is. Having been working in the industry for almost 15 years now, I would recommend Orlando Airlink to be in the market because we need more players on the market, in the Malawi market. Like the idea that they have the flights going up north, Mzuzu and even Delikoma, which many felt like it wasn't all that exploited, but now it's accessible.
Orlando Airlink is using the 15-seater Donia 228. The flights between Lilongwe and Blantyre have been introduced barely 2 months after Orlando Airlink launched the Lilongwe Mzuzu and Delikoma route. Orlando, which also offers the possibility of onward charters to other areas, has also indicated that it will launch flights to Liwonde National Park in 2020.
With that story, we've also come to the end of today's edition of Business Time here on Times Television. It is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, I am Sharon Jirwa. But always remember, if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense.